Right. And joining us now is the head coach of Alabama State, the reigning defending SWAC champs, taking part of a very important tournament, the HBCU Celebration Classic this weekend in Montgomery. And of course, we're talking about the one and only Mr. Todd Bradley. Coach, thanks for the time today. How you doing, sir?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Very big week, as I mentioned, with the Celebration Classic with schools for the MEAC and the SWAC coming together, converging in Montgomery. For fans who don't really understand HBCU softball, what is it like playing, first of all, with your facility? I can make the argument you have probably one of the nicest stadiums in terms of HBCU programs. How fortunate are you to able to host an event like this in a facility such as yours?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us is we have been very blessed. We do have a very nice facility. It's a place, Montgomery is a pretty easy place to get to. With the history here, with Montgomery being the birthplace of civil rights, I think that the HBCU tournament needs to be here. And so in the past, it had been hosted by Grambling State, and it was in New Orleans. And when they weren't able to fill the tournament last year, I asked Coach Hall if she minded if I tried to take it over, and she said absolutely not. And so I started to try to build some momentum and stuff, and I actually reached out to EJI, which is Equal Justice Initiative, which is based right here in Montgomery, and they wanted to partner with us. So kind of what we've done is turn it into an event where on Friday, all the teams will come in on Thursday, but on Friday, all the teams are going to be able to tour the Legacy Museum downtown. And then also after lunch, we're going to go to the Memorial for Peace and Justice. And then EJI is going to put a presentation on for all of the teams, coaches, spectators, those kind of things that are traveling with the team. So my big vision for this is to try to get it to expand so that we could have every HBCU in the country here this weekend, and then also be able to move toward Division II and NAIA in the future. So
I think with because the biggest point that you mentioned is that with Dolly, people don't realize there's Division I HBCUs. There are those in the CIAA, there are those in the SWAC, those HBCUs that play softball as well. So you're kind of seeing it, you're already having it in your mind where you want D1, D2, NAIA, those HBCUs to converge to Montgomery to not only have the softball aspect of it, but to gain an understanding of what the civil rights and the social justice aspect of it, where it really all started in Montgomery.
Absolutely. I think, you know what, unless you've had the opportunity to be around Montgomery, to be around some of the history and some of the culture, you just really only know it on the surface. So there's some eye-opening things that people are going to be able to see when they're here, but there's also a much larger picture, and the larger picture is humanity, and that I've always thought this my whole life. People are people. You win with people. And just to better understand humanity as a whole, I believe it will make the world a better place, or at least it's going to be on the right track to hopefully make it a world a better place for sure.
And definitely with the times that we're living in, with
absolutely
all the incidents that have been taking place, George Floyd, Tamir Rice, you name it, we've all kind of experienced that. I think it's important that we kind of understand that when you take out the jerseys, everybody's still fighting for the same thing, regardless of creed, color, nationality, origin. Correct. We're all striving and trying to work towards that same thing.
Absolutely. And I think one of the big things, if people haven't had a chance to watch HBCU sports in general, or go to an HBCU softball game, they really don't understand the passion, the pageantry, all of the things that people love about college athletics, but it's taken to the nth degree because everybody's out there competing, and they're all competing for the same passion and for a lot of the same things. And it's really like nothing else. And I've told friends of mine who I've known for years and stuff, like, this has been the greatest experience in my coaching career. And I've been a lot of places. I'm originally from the West Coast and I've moved all over and stuff. This has been the greatest experience, and it's because of the people and the university and the things that I have gotten to learn and become a better person because of. But also, I just really don't think that anything matches the competition between two HBCU schools. And I get it. If you've got number 1 Oklahoma and number 2 Alabama playing, that's going to be exciting. But go to an HBCU game, because the fact of the matter is the girls are going to compete just like that. They work just as hard. They're in the weight rooms doing those same things. And they want to go out and they want to compete and beat each other on the field. And some of those things are what makes being in the SWAC or being in the MEAC very special. And I experienced a little bit last year for the first time when we went to the SWAC tournament. It was like nothing else. It was so amazing just to be a part of that tournament. I mean, ultimately people are probably saying, well, you won it. So, but that's not the reason. If we would have went 2 in barbecue, it was just about the experience being there. So I encourage everybody to go out, go to your local HBCU, go to a game, and you're going to see some good stuff, because there's good softball being played in every conference, and there's probably less than good softball being played in every conference as well.
And I think it's so remarkable with the SWAC in particular, because the SWAC has always been very deep in terms of who could contend and win the championship. You were fortunate enough to do so last year. Now you add FAMU and Bethune-Cookman to your lead this year, who were essentially battling each other to win the MEAC to get them automatic bid to the tournament. How is that going to not only benefit the conference as a whole going forward, but how do you see it benefiting HBCU softball going forward?
Well, I think in HBCU circles, Bethune-Cookman and FAMU are household names. People know them. I think, number one, they put a good product on the field, both schools, and they play hard. And they just made those 2 schools, from a softball standpoint, made our conference that much better. And we're in the East Division. And, of course, those 2 are in the East Division. So that just makes the East Division that much better. But it makes the entire SWAC that much better, because there's some really good teams in the West as well. And we're all going to converge on Gulfport, Mississippi at the end of the year, the top 4 from each side, and, battle it out and have a chance to win. So FAMU and Bethune really bring a very high quality of softball, speaking on the softball side, but they bring 2 tremendous universities to our conference that are just going to make everybody better.
Yeah, I think the lineage of those programs in those institutions are already rich in an already rich conference such as the SWAC. So it's only going to build a profile as a whole in the conference. What do you see as your long-term vision of HBCU softball in terms of being competitive and getting more opportunities on the national stage? Because we saw some games being televised nationally on ESPN and the family networks last year in the MEAC, and obviously the SWAC is trying to find their way into there as well. Where do you want to see HBCU softball 3 years, 5 years, maybe a decade from now in terms of where they are today?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us as a conference is for us to continue to become competitive, continue to play the bigger schools, the better mid-majors, but also give ourselves an opportunity to start winning those games. And I think it starts with each coach, and everybody's going to have a different philosophy. But if we continue to go out and recruit hard and do the things to help make our conference better, then we are going to become more competitive along the lines. I know one major thing is RPI, and the number one criteria in RPI is win-loss percentage. So we've got to start doing some things as a conference to make sure that we are winning more games than we're losing. And that's going to help raise the profile.
And of course, that's going to be a process that's going to take years and seasons. And as you get those athletes coming in, it's going to help things out for you. As a coach, what type of, because with HBCUs, you're always looking for those particular people who fit the profile, not only with the program, but with the institution. Do you find, is the recruiting, do you have to be a little bit more, I don't want to say fine-tuned, but you have to be a little more particular when it comes to picking out players that fit not only with the program, but with the institution?
I don't know that you have to. I think one of the big things in recruiting, regardless of what institution you're at, is giving student athletes or potential student athletes information. And they may not know either. They might know. They might be a person that's like, hey, I live in Montgomery, or I'm down the road, or I've followed ASU for my whole life, or my parents went there. But there's going to be some others that haven't really heard of you. And I'm just speaking on my behalf. And that's the opportunity that you have to really sell your story, and to sell the story and the heritage and tradition of your program, and then your university as well, because ultimately they're going to come and they're going to be a student first and an athlete second, and if they don't know, that just gives you an opportunity to open doors to some things that maybe they've never thought about learning before. So I don't know that it's different. I think that every place I've been, you always as a coach have to find your niche. And I think that there's really, I mean, regardless of whether I was at Fresno, Campbell, Corbin University, there's always a niche that you have to find in order to recruit quality student athletes. And my biggest thing as a coach, and this isn't for everybody, but I'll recruit anyone. And I mean, the worst thing they're going to tell me is no, I'm not interested, you know? So we're going to go out and we're going to try to recruit the best talent in the country. And if we don't have a chance, we don't have a chance. But if you don't try to have the conversation, the answer is automatically no. So we want to go try to get the players that can help us come in and continue to build what we've already started, and get us to that point where we can go out, and by the time we go to the NCAA tournament, or Alcorn goes to the NCAA tournament, or somebody else in our conference goes to the NCAA tournament, it's not just go there for the experience and come home. It's go there and let's give ourselves an opportunity to compete and win. And those are the things that I want to do here. And many of the coaches in our conference and many of the coaches that I know in the MEAC, they want to do the same thing. So we're out there trying to work and trying to take that next step so that we can go compete at a regional rather than just go to a regional.
Yeah, that's a big difference when you're just there to be like that O2 barbecue, or to go there and actually competing and trying to win games and trying to advance the regionals. It's a totally different mindset, and trying to find those athletes and those recruits to get that program to what you were talking about, to not just being happy to be there, but to competing and trying to win in regionals as well.
Correct. And that's what we're trying to do here. Many of the other coaches that I talk to in the conference, that's what they're trying to do. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. I don't think that anyone sets out to say, hey, let's just have an okay year and do that. So I don't think anybody that's competitive and leading people and running programs think that way. So it's just a matter of sometimes even you as a person individually have to step back and say, okay, maybe it won't be next year, or maybe it won't be this year, or maybe it wasn't last year, but it can be the next step. and then continue fighting for it.
And your team so far, you've played a couple of real tough tournaments, had some fairly solid wins. Where would you assess your team going into this Celebration Classic, given some of the competition and the opponents you played early on in the season?
Well, we try to play a tough schedule mixed with mid majors, Power Fives. We want to understand what it's going to be like to compete against the best. Most of the time, if you have an opportunity to go to a regional just like ours last year, you're going to play a really good mid-major like Troy. You're going to have a couple Power Fives like Alabama and Clemson. And so I don't think for us, if that's where we plan to go, that it does us any good to not play those kind of teams. So I like where we're at. We obviously are not where we are going to be yet. And I even told them, like, one of the best games we've played all year was in a loss. And we talk about the process a lot, and I know a lot of people do, but if you're doing those things correctly, eventually the W's will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Tarleton State, very talented team. It was a battle. We played very well. We left the bases loaded three different times during the game. We lost by 4 runs, but we were pretty complete in that entire game, and I felt like that we played fairly well. And if after week 2 you don't have anything to improve on, and then that could be a time that you maybe have to worry. So we're in a good spot. Everything that we worked on today in practice, and everything that we need to get better at is fixable. So we're just going to keep fighting and keep pushing. And I think that it's going to be a good weekend, and on a much broader level than just softball, it's going to be a great weekend this weekend. And we just have an opportunity to fellowship with some other schools that are like us, and really celebrate Black history and celebrate the history of our institutions. And I think it's going to be fabulous.
Yeah, we see that a lot on the football side with all those classics. I mean, from Florida, the Florida Classic immediately comes to mind with FAMU and Bethune-Cookman, and just the celebration of those two schools. And you're really trying to take that to the next level on the softball side with you hosting this Celebration Classic. Is that a fair assessment for you to say, Coach?
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, and I mean, I don't want to get out ahead of myself, but I would like, we've already got 4 teams that aren't attending this year's Classic, as well as everybody returning that's in this year's, and then 4 additional teams. So my biggest thing is trying to get every Division I school in the country that's an HBCU to come to Montgomery the 3rd weekend of February every year, and let's get this rolling. And then from that point, once we start to get it there, then the community and the city of Montgomery has already told us, hey, Lagoon Park, we can go out here and utilize other facilities around and really make it big. And because ultimately, if it expands to where I want to, our stadium, no matter what size it is, it's one field, so it's not going to be able to host all of those games, but it's bigger than the game. Like, it's humanity. It's much bigger than the game, and it's something that I'm fine if we're in Prattville and other places, Troy, other places, just because I want this to be a tremendous, big, huge celebration for all HBCUs, Division I to start, and then I'm even wanting to expand, like I said earlier, to Division II, to NAIA, and just to make it a really big situation where people the 3rd weekend of February are coming to Montgomery every year to play softball and to understand the rich history that is Montgomery, Alabama.
And I think a lot of people don't really, a lot of casual people don't understand that history, that lineage, where Montgomery is kind of a lot of people associate New York and Los Angeles, but for those African Americans, it's Montgomery, it's Selma, it's those places where kind of that civil rights movements, that social justice really started to bubble up and take hold. And I feel it's important that we have people like yourself and the rest of the coaches to get invested and have that commitment to saying, hey, this is bigger than just softball. It's understanding why are we taking the knee? Why are we protesting? Why are we talking about civil justice? This is where it all started from.
Correct. Absolutely. And that's the thing that I'm so blessed and thankful that EJI wanted to get involved, because of the fact that there's going to be girls on every team that comes here that some have a very deep understanding and some have a very basic understanding. And I believe that every school that is coming have at least one or two white players on their teams as well. And white coaches like myself and some of that stuff. And for white players, like this is why the institution you're attending is here. And it's good for you to know this actual history, that not just the surface level history that sometimes people want you to maybe know, but to really truly delve in and understand the history of where civil rights came from, why it was fought for, why we're still fighting for it, why there still continues to be need change. And so I think that this is going to, I'm excited. I've been looking forward to this for ever since I started planning it and when it started to really come to fruition. So this is a big weekend for us, and it's way bigger than myself. I just want people to be able, I want to be that vessel so people can come here and they can learn and they can have an experience for themselves.
A couple other things, Coach, before we let you go. Where do you want to see, and I know we kind of mentioned this a couple of times, with this classic, I think the biggest importance you're saying for you is for people understanding about Montgomery and then also the fellowshipping with the other HBCUs. Do you feel that's going to be like the most important facet of it outside of what happens on and off the field this weekend?
I do. I think it's going to be, right now, teams could be coming thinking that it's going to be about the softball. But I think after Friday, after all of the festivities and things that we're doing, I think that people are going to realize it's so much bigger than softball, and it's so much bigger than what we do on the field Saturday and Sunday. And it's about us as people coming together and understanding what it was really like. And unfortunately for some, it can be a smack in the face because they haven't really experienced it. And but you know what, the tough conversations are usually the ones that yield the most results. So that's part of life. You have to have tough conversations, and the truth could hurt a little bit, but it has to happen if we're going to continue to grow, I think, as people and as a society and as a world, so that we can all live in harmony together.
And the final thing, Coach, the significance of having it taking place in Montgomery, with his history, with his lineage, for those who are kind of casual fans and going forward, what will be the biggest thing you want someone to look forward to when they come to Montgomery for this event, not just this year, but when it happens in subsequent and future years?
Number one, I want them to understand that they're going to come here and they're going to be educated. Number one, they're going to have an opportunity to see how it really was, see how it really is, and be educated and have the opportunity to um, have an educational experience. But then on Saturday and on Sunday, they're going to have the opportunity to watch good softball. And, that's kind of the vessel that's giving us this opportunity to be here. So we have to put a good product on the field as well. And I think that the biggest thing is come here, let's fellowship together, let's have a great time, let's enjoy it, and then let's compete. Friendly competition never hurt anybody. Let's get after it and let's fight for those things that we want, like our teammates and our heritage and our society and all of those things. And really they all parallel one another because that's kind of how life is.
Definitely, Coach. Well, we certainly are going to be rooting for success for that tournament and for your team throughout the rest of the season. Thanks so much for the time, Coach, and we certainly will wish you well. And hopefully, if you have another one next year, that maybe we could make a trip to Montgomery ourselves and see the event for itself.
You guys are always welcome. We'd love for you guys to come, and we are having an event next year, and I can get you guys that as early as you need to.